The email sat in my inbox like a ticking bomb. Dear Mrs. Annie Thompson, regarding your involvement in the Oakwood Heights development project. I blinked, read it again. Oakwood Heights? I'd never heard of it, yet according to this email, I was apparently a key investor. My name is Annie, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I knew everything about my life, my marriage, and especially my finances. As a forensic accountant, numbers are my sanctuary. They don't lie, they don't pretend, and they always tell a story if you know how to listen. Earth to Annie. Judy waved her hand in front of my face, her coffee going cold on my desk. You've been staring at your screen for 5 minutes straight. I turned my monitor toward her. Have you ever heard of Oakwood Heights? She squinted at the email. No, but isn't that the kind of thing Tom handles for you guys, since you gave him control of your inheritance? The mention of my inheritance made my stomach clench. 6 months ago, I'd signed everything over to Tom. It's just easier this way, baby, he'd said, flashing that smile that still made my knees weak after 7 years of marriage. You handle enough numbers at work. Let me take care of our future. Yeah, I replied to Judy, forcing a smile. You're right, I'll ask him tonight. Speaking of tonight, Judy perched on the edge of my desk, her eyes sparkling. Don't forget it's your anniversary dinner, though I still can't believe you're working today. Tom's taking me to La Maison, I said, trying to match her enthusiasm. He's been talking about it for weeks. Of course he has. Mr. Perfect, always planning the perfect surprise. Judy's tone carried an edge I chose to ignore, just like I had for years. The rest of the afternoon crawled by. I couldn't focus on my cases. My mind kept drifting back to that email. At 5:30, I packed up, but something made me forward it to my personal account before logging off. Home was our dream house in the suburbs, all brick and columns and perfectly manicured lawn. Tom's Tesla wasn't in the driveway yet. I kicked off my heels and headed upstairs to change, but stopped at his home office. The door was usually locked, but today it swung open easily. I told myself I was just looking for documentation about Oakwood Heights. Nothing more. His desk was immaculate as always, but a file was sitting slightly askew in his otherwise perfectly aligned stack. The label read, Property Holdings, Q2. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were property deeds, investment reports, and bank statements. Lots of them. My grandmother's inheritance had been substantial, nearly $2 million, but these numbers were far beyond that. And the dates. Some of these transactions predated my inheritance. Annie? Tom's voice boomed from downstairs. Baby, are you home? I shoved the file back, heart pounding. Up here, just getting ready. Well, hurry up, beautiful. I've got champagne chilling and reservations at 8. I rushed to our bedroom, mind racing. Tom appeared in the doorway, tall and handsome in his charcoal suit, holding 2 glasses of champagne. Happy anniversary, baby. Happy anniversary, I echoed, accepting the glass with trembling fingers. He pulled me close, nuzzling my neck. 7 years. Can you believe it? Sometimes it feels like yesterday, I said, and it was true. I could still remember our first date, how he'd charmed me with stories of his real estate empire, how he'd made me feel like the most special woman in the world. Get dressed, he whispered. I've got something big to tell you tonight. As I slipped into my black dress, my phone buzzed. Another email, this time from an address I didn't recognize. Mrs. Thompson, urgent matter regarding Christina's trust fund allocation. Please confirm transfer authorization. Christina? What trust fund? Annie? Tom called up. Car's waiting. I deleted the email, grabbed my clutch, and headed downstairs. Tom held out his arm, ever the perfect gentleman. As we walked to the car, I caught our reflection in the window. The picture-perfect couple. But cracks were appearing in that picture, hairline fractures that threatened to shatter everything. You okay? Tom asked, opening my door. You seem distracted. I smiled, leaning in to kiss his cheek, just thinking about how lucky I am. He beamed, and I felt sick, because in that moment, I knew, really knew, that something was terribly wrong. And I was going to find out what it was, even if it destroyed everything I thought I knew about love, marriage, and the man I'd trusted with my heart and my future. The numbers don't lie, and they were telling me a story I wasn't sure I was ready to hear. La Maison's soft lighting couldn't mask the tension I felt as Tom ordered another bottle of wine. My mind kept drifting to those files, to the mysterious Christina, to all the numbers that didn't add up. You're awfully quiet tonight, Tom said, reaching across the table to take my hand. Something on your mind? I squeezed his hand, buying time. Actually, yes. I got an interesting email today about Oakwood Heights. Ring any bells? His smile didn't waver, but something flickered in his eyes. Ah, that. It's a new development project I'm working on. Nothing for you to worry about. But the email said I was an investor. Just legal stuff, baby. You know how these things work. Since we consolidated our assets, some documents list both our names. He waved the waiter over. More bread? I shook my head, my forensic accountant's brain screaming that this wasn't how things worked at all. But I smiled, played my part, and let him change the subject to his latest golf game. The next morning, I waited until Tom left for his breakfast meeting before making my move. His office password took 3 attempts: our wedding date, his birthday, and finally success with his college football number. Amateur. Okay, Tom, I muttered. Let's see what you've been up to. His email revealed a complex web of accounts and properties. I started copying everything to a USB drive, my hands steady despite my racing heart. A folder labeled Personal caught my eye. Inside were hundreds of receipts. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry stores, all in cities where Tom claimed to have business meetings. My phone buzzed. Judy. You okay? She asked without preamble. You looked ready to crack last night when you left work. Can you meet me? Now? Give me 20 minutes. Coffee shop on 4th? The cafe was quiet when I arrived. Judy was already there, 2 lattes waiting. I pulled out my laptop and showed her what I'd found. Holy shit, she whispered, scrolling through the documents. Annie, these transactions, they're not just shady, they're potentially criminal. Look at these dates. He was moving your inheritance money before you even signed it over. There's more. I pulled up the email about Christina. Who is she, and why does she have a trust fund connected to my accounts? Judy's face went pale. Wait here. She rushed to her car, returning with a stack of papers. I've been doing some digging since you mentioned the weird email yesterday. Found this in public records. My coffee went cold as I stared at the document. A property deed for a house in Riverside, purchased 3 years ago. Listed owners, Tom and Christina. I need to see this house, I said, standing up. Annie, wait. Are you coming or not? 20 minutes later, we parked across the street from a beautiful Victorian home. A woman about my age was in the garden, a toddler playing nearby. She had Tom's favorite flowers planted along the walkway, the same ones he brought me every Friday. That's Christina, Judy whispered unnecessarily. My world was spinning. A car pulled into the driveway, Tom's Tesla. I ducked down in my seat, watching as he got out, scooped up the laughing toddler, and kissed Christina like he'd kissed me last night. Drive, I choked out. Please, just drive. Back at my office, I locked myself in the bathroom and threw up. When I emerged, Judy was waiting with water and determination in her eyes. What are you going to do? I sat at my desk, pulled up my banking software. What I do best, follow the money. Annie, he's been playing me for years, Judy, years, using my inheritance, my trust, my love to build this alternate life. My voice was steady, surprising me. But he forgot one thing. What's that? I logged into the forensic accounting database. Numbers are my language, and his numbers, they're about to tell me everything. My phone lit up with a text from Tom. Working late tonight, baby. Don't wait up. Love you. I texted back, no problem, love you too. Judy raised an eyebrow. What? I said, already deep in financial records. He's not the only one who can play pretend. As the afternoon sun faded, patterns emerged in Tom's financial maze. Regular transfers, hidden accounts, properties under shell companies. Each discovery was a knife in my heart, but also a weapon in my arsenal. You know what you're doing could be dangerous, Judy said softly. If he's hiding this much, I looked up from my screen, something cold and hard settling in my chest. You know what's dangerous, Judy? Thinking you can steal from a forensic accountant and get away with it. Tom's about to learn that lesson the hard way. The numbers were telling their story now, loud and clear, and I was finally ready to listen. 3 days of playing the loving wife while digging through financial records had left me exhausted. I sat in my car outside Christina's yoga studio, watching her chat with other women after class. She looked so normal, happy, completely unaware that her life, like mine, was built on lies. My phone buzzed. Tom, miss you, baby. Dinner tonight? Can't. Girls' night with Judy, remember? Another lie to add to the pile between us. Christina walked to her car, and I found myself following her at a safe distance. She pulled into a high-end grocery store, the same one Tom claimed had the best steaks in town. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Inside, I grabbed a basket and pretended to shop while keeping her in sight. She was in the produce section when someone called out, "Christina, how's my favorite client?" I ducked behind a display as a tall man approached her. His expensive suit and confident stride screamed business. "Joshua, what a surprise," Christina smiled. "Just picking up ingredients for Tom's favorite pasta. He's been so stressed about the Oakwood Heights project." I nearly dropped my basket. "Joshua, I knew that name from Tom's emails." "That man works too hard." Joshua laughed. "But the project's worth it. Biggest development deal of the year. Speaking of which, is he still planning to liquidate those trust holdings next week?" "I think so. He mentioned something about moving funds around. My inheritance. He was planning to move my inheritance." I followed Christina to check out, then watched her load her groceries. As she drove away, I approached Joshua, who was still examining wine bottles. "Excuse me," I said, channeling my inner airhead. I couldn't help overhearing, "You're in real estate?" He turned, all charm and perfect teeth. "Joshua Mills, Mills Development Group, always happy to meet a potential investor." "Actually, I'm interested in Oakwood Heights. I heard it's quite the project." His smile flickered. "Are you involved with the development?" "Not yet, but I'm very interested in the financial structure." He pulled out a business card. "Why don't you call my office? We can discuss opportunities." Back in my car, I Googled Mills Development Group. Their website listed Tom as a partner, something he'd never mentioned. I called Judy. "I need you to do something crazy," I said when she answered. "Crazier than stalking your husband's other wife?" "I need you to get me into a meeting with Joshua Mills." Silence. Then, "The real estate developer? How? You're still friends with his secretary, right? From spin class?" "Annie, please, Judy, I need to know what Tom's planning." She sighed. "Fine, but be careful. You're playing with fire." 2 days later, I sat in Joshua's plush office, wearing my sharpest suit and my game face. "Ms. Walker," he said, using the fake name Judy had given his secretary. "How can I help you?" "I'm interested in investing in Oakwood Heights. But first, I need to understand the current ownership structure." He leaned back, studying me. "That information is confidential." "Of course, but surely you can tell me about the trust fund allocations, the ones being liquidated next week?" His face hardened. "Who are you, really?" I stood, smoothing my skirt. "Someone very interested in Tom's financial decisions. Give him a message for me. Annie says hello." I was halfway to the door when he called out, "Wait." I turned. He looked shaken. "You're Tom's wife. But he told us you were aware of everything." "Did he? How interesting. What else did he tell you?" Joshua ran a hand through his hair. "Look, I don't want any part of whatever this is. But you should know, the trust liquidation, it's happening tomorrow, not next week." My heart stopped. "Thank you, Joshua." I drove straight to the bank, my mind racing. Tom had access to my accounts, but some things still required my signature. Unless... The bank manager's face told me everything before she spoke. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson, but those documents were processed last week. Your husband had power of attorney." "Power of attorney?" My voice cracked. "That's impossible. I never signed..." She pulled up the document on her screen. There it was, my signature, perfectly forged. I stumbled out to my car and called Judy. "He forged my signature. He's taking everything tomorrow. Come to my house. Now." As I drove, my phone lit up with a text from Tom. "Surprise! Booked us a weekend getaway. Pack your bags, baby. Leaving tomorrow morning." Of course. He was planning to be gone when the transfers went through. My hand shook as I typed, "Can't wait. Best husband ever." The lies came so easily now. But tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, Tom would learn that he wasn't the only one who could play this game. And I was playing to win. Judy's dining room table disappeared under stacks of documents as we worked through the night. Every bank statement, every property deed, every forged signature told another piece of Tom's story. "Look at this," Judy said, holding up a birth certificate. Christina's son. He's 2 years old. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. 2 years? That means he was sleeping with her before your wedding. The cup shattered against the wall before I realized I'd thrown it. Sorry, I whispered, but Judy was already cleaning up. Don't apologize. Break everything. You've earned it. My phone buzzed. Tom's hourly check-in. Almost packed, baby? Can't wait for our romantic weekend. I texted back a heart emoji, then turned to Judy. I need to get into that safety deposit box. The one you found the key for? It's at First National, box 2317. I pulled out Tom's bank records. He visits it every month, always after making large transfers. How are you going to access it? It's probably in his name. I smiled grimly. Actually, it's in mine. Another thing he forged, but this time that works in my favor. First National opened at 9 a.m. I was there at 8:55, dressed for my romantic weekend, suitcase in the car. The bank manager recognized me. Mrs. Thompson, your husband mentioned you'd be coming. My heart stopped. He did? Yes, he called yesterday to add you to the access list. Said it was an anniversary surprise. Of course. He needed me to have access so nothing would look suspicious when he emptied it. I forced a smile. That's my Tom. Always thoughtful. The box was larger than I expected. Inside, I found stacks of cash, multiple passports, some with Tom's picture under different names, and a USB drive. Could I have a moment alone? I asked the manager. To appreciate my surprise? In the private viewing room, I plugged the USB into my phone. Folders upon folders of offshore account details, property holdings, and emails appeared. But what caught my eye was a video file labeled Christina Wedding. My hands shook as I pressed play. There was Tom in a tuxedo, standing at an altar. Christina walking down the aisle in white. A different ring, a different ceremony, a different life, dated just 6 months after our own wedding. Mrs. Thompson, the manager knocked. Your husband is on the phone for you. I quickly copied everything to my phone, returned the USB, and closed the box. At the counter, I took the phone with steady hands. Hey, baby. Tom's voice oozed charm. Where are you? I'm about to head home to pick you up. Just finishing up at the bank. Had to deposit some checks before we leave. A pause. The bank? Which branch? The one near work. Why? No reason. See you soon, baby. I handed back the phone and walked calmly to my car. The moment I was inside, I called Judy. He knows. He's coming here. Get out now. Come to my place. And Annie? I called in that favor from my brother. Judy's brother was an FBI agent. When I arrived at her house, he was waiting with 2 other agents. Show them, Judy said. I connected my phone to Judy's laptop and displayed everything. The forged documents, the offshore accounts, the multiple identities, and finally the video. Mrs. Thompson, Agent Mike leaned forward. Your husband isn't just committing fraud. This is international money laundering. And that second marriage? That's bigamy. My phone buzzed. Tom again. Where are you? I'm at the bank, but they said you left. Another text followed. Baby, whatever you found, we can talk about it. I can explain everything. And another. Annie, think carefully about what you're doing. He's scared, Judy said softly. Good. I turned to Mike. What do you need from me? Everything you've shown us, plus your testimony. We've been building a case against several developers involved in international money laundering. Your husband's name came up, but we couldn't prove anything. Until now. My phone buzzed one more time. I'm coming home. Be there. I looked at the agents. He's going to our house. He thinks I'm there. Mike nodded to his colleagues. Let's move. As they prepared to leave, I stared at my wedding ring. All those years. All those lies. I slipped the ring off and placed it on Judy's table. Annie. Judy touched my arm. Are you sure about this? Once it starts, I thought of Christina's son, innocent and unknowing, of my grandmother's inheritance, meant to secure my future, now funding Tom's double life, of all the careful deceptions and casual cruelties. I'm sure, I said, and my voice was steel. It's time for Tom to learn that karma doesn't need to be patient forever. Sometimes karma just needs the right evidence. The FBI set up surveillance in our house while I sat at the kitchen island. exactly where a loving wife would wait for her husband. Agent Mike and his team were hidden throughout the house, recording devices ready. Just keep him talking, Mike had instructed. We need him to incriminate himself. The front door opened. Annie? Tom's voice carried that perfect mix of concern and authority that had fooled me for so long. Baby, are you here? In the kitchen. He appeared in the doorway, handsome and collected as ever, but his eyes darted around the room. You scared me, disappearing like that. Did I? I kept my voice neutral. Like you disappeared to Riverside every Thursday? He didn't flinch. Professional liar that he was. What are you talking about? Christina seems nice. Your son looks just like you. Now he flinched. Annie, let me explain. Explain what? The forged signatures? The stolen inheritance? Or maybe explain how you managed to marry her when you were already married to me. He moved closer, hands raised like he was approaching a scared animal. Whatever you think you found, it's not what it looks like. I had to make some complicated business moves to protect our future. Our future? I laughed. Or your future with Christina. Christina means nothing. She's just part of a business arrangement. Does she know that? Does your son know that? His face hardened. You've been going through my things. Actually, I've been doing my job, following the money. You remember what I do for a living, right? Or did you forget while you were busy stealing my inheritance? I didn't steal anything. He slammed his hand on the counter. Everything I did was to build something bigger. For us. For us? Tell me about Oakwood Heights, Tom. Tell me about the offshore accounts. His eyes narrowed. What did you do? Nothing yet, but I have copies of everything. The forged documents, the fake passports, the second marriage certificate. One call and it all goes public. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone, showed him the files. Want to bet your freedom on that? He changed tactics, his voice softening. Baby, listen, we can fix this. I'll sign everything back over to you. We'll start fresh. Like you promised Christina? She means nothing. He reached for me. You're my wife. I stepped back. So is she. It's not legal, just a ceremony to keep her family happy while I close some deals. And the baby? A mistake. One I've paid for. He moved closer. Annie, please. Think about what you're doing. If this gets out, everyone gets hurt. Christina, the baby. Do you want that on your conscience? That hit home. Christina was as much a victim as I was. But then I remembered the birth certificate date. She'd known him first. He'd married me while already involved with her. You're right, I said softly. Christina and your son don't deserve this. Hope flickered in his eyes. Then let's talk. Just us. We can work it out. No, Tom, we can't. Agent Mike stepped out of the shadows. Thomas Thompson, you're under arrest. Tom's face went white. You didn't... She did, Mike said, producing handcuffs. And we have everything on tape. 2 more agents appeared. Tom looked at me, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. Annie, please. I love you. No, I said quietly. You love winning. You love control. But you never loved me. As they led him away, he called back, What about Christina? What about my son? I waited until he was gone before answering softly. They'll be better off without you. We all will. Judy emerged from the living room where she'd been waiting. You okay? No. I sank onto a kitchen stool. But I will be. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Christina. We need to talk. Judy read over my shoulder. Are you going to meet her? I stared at the message, thinking of the woman in the garden with her toddler, living her own version of my lie. Yes, I said finally. She deserves to know everything. And then what? I looked around at my perfect kitchen and my perfect house, all bought with lies and stolen dreams. And then I'm selling this house, starting over. Maybe help other women learn to spot the signs I missed. The signs you caught, Judy corrected. You brought down his whole operation. Yeah, I managed a small smile. Turns out karma doesn't need patience when it has a forensic accountant on its side. My phone buzzed again. Christina setting up a meeting for tomorrow. Want me to come with you? Judy asked. I shook my head. No, this is something I need to do alone. Besides, I added, I have a feeling Christina and I have a lot to talk about. starting with how we're going to rebuild our lives after loving the same liar. The sun was setting outside, painting the kitchen gold. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. The truth was out, the lies exposed, and tomorrow would be different. The cafe where Christina suggested we meet was halfway between our houses. Our real houses, not the fake life Tom had constructed. She was already there when I arrived, her son asleep in a stroller beside her. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said as I sat down. "I wasn't sure you'd want to see me." A waiter approached. We both ordered coffee, strong and black. When he left, Christina leaned forward. "How long have you known?" "About a week. You?" "The FBI showed up at my door last night." She twisted her wedding ring, identical to the one I'd taken off. "They showed me everything. The other properties, the fraud, you—" Her voice cracked. "I had no idea you existed. I didn't know about you either. But you figured it out. You caught him." "I'm a forensic accountant. Numbers are what I do." She reached into her bag, pulled out a stack of papers. "Then maybe you can help me understand these. They're from my bank accounts. The FBI says most of the money is from illegal activities." I glanced at the statements. The same patterns I'd found in my accounts jumped out immediately. "He moved money between Shell's companies," I explained, "made it look like legitimate business transactions, using my name, my signature. Mine too." Her son stirred in the stroller. She reached out automatically, soothing him with a gentle touch. "James," she said softly. "That's his name. Tom insisted on it, said it was his father's name." His father's name was Robert. Christina's hand froze. Everything was a lie, wasn't it? "Down to the flowers he brought us. Same kind, same day of the week." She laughed, a harsh sound. "Friday afternoons. Peonies." He really wasn't very creative. Our coffee arrived. We both stared into our cups, the weight of shared betrayal hanging between us. "What happens now?" Christina asked. "The FBI is freezing all his assets, but anything we can prove was legitimately ours, we can keep." "I don't want his money. Neither do I, but—" I nodded toward James. "He deserves security. They're saying Tom could face 20 years. More, probably. The international accounts complicated things." Christina's phone buzzed. She checked it, her face hardening. "His lawyer, again, wants me to help build his defense." "What are you going to do?" "Tell the truth, that I was as fooled as you were." She looked up. "Unless you need me to say something else?" I shook my head. "The evidence is enough. Your testimony would just be confirmation." James woke up then, his sleepy eyes so much like Tom's it hurt. Christina lifted him, and he snuggled into her shoulder. "I'm selling my house," I said suddenly. "Starting fresh. I can't afford to keep mine. Not without—" She trailed off. "I might have a solution." I pulled out my laptop, showed her what I'd been working on. "My grandmother's inheritance? What's left of it? I'm using it to start a foundation. For women like us, people who've been financially manipulated or defrauded." "A foundation?" "Education, legal support, emergency housing. The FBI says there are more victims out there. Other women Tom scammed." Christina was quiet for a long moment. Would you need help running it?" "Actually, I was hoping you'd say that. You have a business degree, right? How did you—" "Found your LinkedIn. Did some background checking. Hope you don't mind." She smiled, a real smile. "Once a forensic accountant, always a forensic accountant?" "Something like that." James reached for my hair, giggling. Christina gently pulled his hand back. "Sorry, he's grabby lately." "It's okay." I touched his small hand. "He's innocent in all this." "No one's innocent," a familiar voice cut in. We both looked up to see Judy standing there. "Except maybe him." "Judy," I started, but she cut me off. "Save it. I've been watching you torture yourself for days about meeting Christina. Had to make sure you were both okay." Christina shifted. "You're Annie's friend? The one who helped her?" "Guilty. And now I'm here to help both of you. First step? Lunch. Real food, not just coffee. You two have a foundation to plan." As Judy pulled up a chair, I watched Christina settle James with some toys. Two women who'd loved and lost the same lie, sitting in a cafe, planning a future neither of us had imagined a week ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Agent Mike. Tom's talking, says he'll give up his international contacts for a deal. I showed the message to Christina. She read it, then looked at me with steel in her eyes. Let him talk, she said. We've got better things to do. Judy raised her coffee cup. To new beginnings? Christina and I lifted our cups. To new beginnings. And to karma, I thought. Sometimes it doesn't just balance the scales. It opens doors you never knew existed. 6 months passed like a whirlwind. The foundation was taking shape, and Christina and I had developed a rhythm, working together to help other women while rebuilding our own lives. Then came the call we'd been dreading. The plea hearing is tomorrow, Agent Mike said. Both of you should be there. I glanced across our new office at Christina, who was bouncing James on her knee while reviewing grant applications. We'll be there. The courthouse loomed gray and imposing the next morning. Judy met us outside, coffee in hand. Ready? She asked. No, Christina and I said simultaneously. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Joshua was there, along with other developers caught in the FBI's net. Tom's lawyer bustled around, papers flying. Then they brought Tom in. Prison hadn't been kind to him. His designer suits were replaced by orange, his confident stride by shuffling steps. But when he saw us, that old charm flickered to life. Annie, he called out. Christina, please, can we— Mr. Thompson, the judge cut in. You'll refrain from addressing anyone but the court. The proceedings began. The prosecutor stood, listing charges that seemed endless. Fraud, money laundering, bigamy, forgery, international financial crimes. The defendant has agreed to provide information about his international contacts in exchange for consideration in sentencing, she concluded. Tom's lawyer rose. My client has shown remorse. He's cooperated fully. Objection! A new voice rang out. A woman in a sharp suit stood up. Your Honor, I represent additional victims who've come forward. My heart stopped. This wasn't part of the plan. The lawyer continued. 3 more women have provided evidence of Mr. Thompson's fraudulent marriages and financial schemes. Same pattern, different cities? Christina grabbed my hand. Tom's face went ash gray. Approach the bench, the judge ordered. While they huddled, I turned to Agent Mike, who sat behind us. Did you know about this? He nodded grimly. Found them last week. Tom was busier than we thought. The judge cleared his throat. In light of this new evidence, I'm rejecting the plea deal. Mr. Thompson, you've demonstrated a pattern of deliberate deception that goes beyond the original charges. Tom jumped up. Your Honor, please, I can explain. Sit down, Mr. Thompson. Based on the severity and scope of your crimes, I'm sentencing you to 25 years in federal prison. Additionally, all assets will be frozen and investigated. The gavel cracked like thunder. As guards approached Tom, he turned to us desperately. Annie, Christina, please. I did it for us. For James. Christina stood, James sleeping against her shoulder. No, Tom. You did it for yourself. Always for yourself. They led him away. The other women, his other victims, huddled together near the back. I approached them slowly. I'm Annie. This is Christina. We run a foundation for survivors of financial fraud. If you need help, one woman stepped forward. I'm Rachel. Tom, he took everything from me 3 years ago. Not everything, Christina said firmly. He didn't take your strength or your future. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Agent Mike ran interference while Judy got our cars. Annie, Tom's lawyer called out. A moment? I turned. He held out an envelope. He wanted you to have this, both of you. Christina and I exchanged looks. Together, we ripped the envelope in half. We don't need any more of his words, I said. The lawyer nodded slowly. I'll let him know. That evening, we all gathered at my new apartment, smaller than the old house, but honestly mine. Rachel and the other women joined us. Judy ordered pizza. James played with toy cars on the floor. To justice, Judy raised her glass. To freedom, Rachel added. To the future, Christina said. I looked around at these women, each carrying their own story of betrayal and survival. To us, and to every woman still out there, thinking she's alone, we'll find them. My phone buzzed. Another message from someone who'd seen the news, seeking help. I showed it to Christina. Ready to get back to work? She asked. Always. As everyone shared stories and support, I stepped onto my small balcony. The city lights sparkled below, each one perhaps hiding another story like ours. But now we had a way to help, to turn our pain into purpose. Judy joined me. You okay? Better than okay. I smiled. For the first time since this all started, I feel free. You did that. You freed yourself, and now you're helping others do the same. Inside, Christina was showing Rachel our foundation's website. James had fallen asleep on the couch, surrounded by strong women who would make sure he grew up knowing the truth about love, trust, and justice. Tom thought he was building an empire on lies. Instead, he'd accidentally created something powerful and real, a network of survivors turned warriors, ready to fight for those who needed us most. Karma had done its job. Now it was our turn to do ours. The Foundation's office buzzed with activity as I reviewed our latest case files. Rachel had joined our team full-time, her legal background proving invaluable. Christina managed operations while juggling preschool schedules for James. My phone lit up with a news alert. Developer Joshua Mills pleads guilty in international fraud case. Christina, I called out, look at this. She leaned over my shoulder, James coloring quietly at her feet. Another one down. How many does that make now? 7 of Tom's former associates. I scrolled through the article. Joshua's testimony implicated 3 more. Mom! James tugged at Christina's sleeve. Look what I drew. She knelt down to admire his artwork, a house with multiple stick figures in front. Who are all these people, honey? That's you and me and Aunt Annie and Aunt Judy and Rachel. He pointed to each figure proudly. Christina's eyes met mine over his head. Neither of us mentioned the missing father figure. Judy burst through the door, waving a folder. You're not going to believe this. What now? I asked. Remember that safety deposit box? The one where you found the USB drive? She spread photos across my desk. The FBI just found more. Dozens of them, all across the country. Rachel joined us, examining the evidence. These could help us identify more victims. Already on it, Judy said. 5 women have come forward since this morning. My computer pinged. An email from Agent Mike. Need you at the prison. Tom's asking for you. Says he has information about offshore accounts we haven't found yet. Delete it, Christina said firmly. I shook my head. Those accounts could help his victims recover their money. Annie, Judy's voice held a warning. I'm not going alone. I looked at Christina. Coming? The prison visiting room was cold and sterile. Tom sat behind the glass, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on his frame. His eyes lit up when he saw us. Annie, Christina, thank you for... Save it. Christina cut him off. The accounts. Where are they? His smile faltered. I've had time to think. About everything I did, everyone I hurt. The accounts, I repeated. First, I need you to know... No. I leaned forward. You don't get to explain or apologize or try to manipulate us again. The only thing you get to do is help make this right. He stared at us for a long moment. Then, deflating, he recited account numbers and passwords. That's everything? Christina asked. Everything. He glanced at the guard, then lowered his voice. How's James? Happy, she said. Loved. Surrounded by strong women who'll make sure he never becomes like you. As we stood to leave, Tom pressed his hand against the glass. I really did love you both. No, I said quietly. You loved what we represented. Opportunities to take, lives to control. But we're not your opportunities anymore. We're your karma. Outside, Christina released a shaky breath. That's the last time. No more visits, no more messages. Agreed. Back at the office, Rachel had organized an impromptu support group session. Women sat in a circle sharing stories of betrayal and recovery. I thought I was stupid, one woman was saying. How could I not see it? You weren't stupid, Rachel assured her. These men are professional manipulators, but you're stronger than their lies. James tugged at my sleeve. Aunt Annie, can we get ice cream? After the meeting, buddy. Why don't you show me more of your drawing? He pulled me to his coloring corner, chattering about his artwork. Christina watched us, smiling. He doesn't ask about Tom anymore, she said softly, because he has everything he needs right here. Judy appeared with fresh coffee for everyone. New client coming in tomorrow. Similar pattern to Tom's other cases. We'll be ready, I said. As the support group wrapped up, women exchanged phone numbers and hugs. One stopped by my desk. I was drowning before I found you, she said. Thank you for showing me I'm not alone. I handed her our foundation's card. You never were. And you never will be again. The setting sun painted our office golden. Rachel and Judy were planning tomorrow's cases. Christina helped James pack up his crayons. On my desk, a framed photo showed all of us at the foundation's opening, our chosen family, built from the ashes of betrayal. My phone buzzed. Agent Mike, offshore accounts checkout. Recovery process starting. You did good. I looked around at what we'd created. Not just a foundation, but a fortress of strength and support. Tom thought he was building an empire of lies. Instead, he'd given us the tools to build something far more powerful. Truth, justice, and healing. Ready to go? Christina asked, James's hand in hers. I grabbed my bag, leaving Tom's final message unread in my inbox. Ready. We had work to do. Women to help. Lives to rebuild. And we'd do it together. Stronger than any lie. More powerful than any betrayal. That was the truest karma of all.